Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Okay, so today we're diving into something I think a lot of you might have run into, especially if you spend time in the States. Picture this. You walk into, say, a busy New York coffee shop. The barista's there, super cheerful. Hey, how are you? And you're polite. You start to actually answer, maybe mention something quick about your morning. But hang on. Before you're even done, she's swiped your card, handed you the coffee, and she's already on to the next person. And you're just standing there thinking, wait, what just happened? Why do Americans ask, how are you? If they don't seem to, well, stick around for the answer. It feels like more than just words, right? Almost like some kind of hidden rule.
It really is. And what's so interesting is that in American English, these phrases, how are you? How's it going? How you doing? They often aren't, well, real questions. They're not actually looking for a status update on your life.
Yep.
Instead, they're functioning much more like a basic social greeting, kind of like just saying hi or good morning. It's just a quick, polite acknowledgement.
And that's where it gets tricky because that's so different from how it works in a lot of other places, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. A huge contrast.
I mean, you think about cultures in, say, Pakistan, India, Spain, Japan, places where asking, how are you, really is an invitation.
Exactly. It's a genuine opening to actually share a bit about how things are going.
But in the U.S., especially if it's like a stranger or someone in a service role like that barista, the expectation is totally different. It's more like you just say something short, right? Like, fine, thanks, and then move on.
Precisely. It's expected to be brief, almost automatic. It keeps things polite, but also really efficient, which is, often valued in those quick interactions.
So this is basically small talk then.
Yes, exactly. This fits right into that idea of small talk. It's that polite chat about, well, simple stuff.
Like the weather or...
Yeah, the weather, weekend plans, maybe even the coffee you're buying. The whole point is to create a sort of friendly, comfortable vibe.
Okay.
But without getting into anything deep or too personal. That stuff is usually saved for people you know much better, like close friends or family. Small talk is more about maintaining a connection, but also a little distance.
Right, like a social lubricant, kind of.
That's a great way to put it.
So you hear those other questions, too, like, nice day, isn't it? Or, how was your weekend? And the real message behind those isn't necessarily, tell me all about it, but more like,
hey, I see you. I'm being friendly. It's a gesture. It opens the door just a crack, but it also closes it pretty quickly. It's not meant to lead to a long discussion.
Okay, so let's walk through that coffee shop scenario again, but with the expected American exchange. How should that ideally go?
Right. So the typical smooth version would be something like the barista says, how are you? And you, the customer, reply, I'm good, thanks. You. Or maybe, fine, thanks. How are you?
Right. Short, and you return the question.
Exactly. And then the barista usually replies, good, thanks. Or doing well, thanks. Something quick, maybe with a little smile.
And that's it.
That's usually it. The interaction's done. It's polite. It's efficient. Everyone's acknowledged each other. The sort of social contract is fulfilled.
Okay, that makes sense. But then what happens if you don't do that?
Right.
What if you do give the longer, more honest answer, like our person in the coffee shop started to? What's the reaction? Why does that sometimes feel, well, awkward?
Yeah, that's where you can feel that cultural friction. Because the question wasn't meant as that deep dive. Giving a really detailed, honest answer can actually make the American speaker feel a bit uncomfortable.
Really?
Sometimes. It's not necessarily that they don't care at all, but the social situation, that specific context, just doesn't call for that level of sharing. It's almost like showing up for quick coffee chat, but bringing a giant, complex presentation. The context is just...
Wow. It breaks the unwritten rule of that specific interaction.
Exactly.
Okay, let's make this even clearer. I think you mentioned a conversation between two friends, Elena and Sam, where Elena is visiting the U.S.
Yes, exactly. It really highlights this confusion perfectly. So Elena is talking to her friend Sam, who's American.
Okay.
And Elena says something like, Sam, this is weird. In the U.S., every cashier, every barista asks, how are you? And I always started telling them, a real answer. And they just looked bewildered. Why even ask?
Yeah, I can picture that confused look. So what does Sam say?
Well, Sam, understanding the American side, explains, oh, Elena, that's just classic small talk. They aren't really asking for your life story, or a whole emotional rundown. Yeah. He says, they're just being polite. It's basically like saying hello.
So Elena asks?
Elena's like, so I should just say, I'm good, thanks. And that's it. Just move on.
And Sam?
Sam confirms. Exactly. If you share too much with a stranger here, it often makes them feel awkward because, well, the question wasn't really an invitation for all that detail. He tells her, a short, simple reply is perfect. It's what's expected.
And Elena's reaction must be interesting coming from a different background.
Oh, yeah, she's genuinely surprised. She says something like, really? Wow, because in my country, if someone asks how you are, you're actually supposed to listen, like really listen and respond with some empathy.
That's a key difference.
It is, and Sam reinforces that. He says, basically, yeah, that's the cultural gap. Here, we generally only get into those details with people we're close to, friends, family. He adds, with strangers or in quick transactions, it's more about being efficient and just making a light social connection.
That story really nails it. Elena's confusion is something so many people experience. It shows how the same words can have totally different unspoken rules attached depending on the culture.
Absolutely.
And for you, the listener, figuring this stuff out is actually really important, isn't it? It's not just trivia.
No, not at all. Understanding the specific real-world usage of everyday American English is vital. It helps you avoid those awkward moments, whether you're, at work or school or just traveling around.
It builds confidence, right? Moving beyond just the grammar words on a page.
Exactly. It's about understanding the social meaning, the subtle cues. That's often where communication really succeeds or breaks down. It's about knowing the hidden rules of the interaction game, which makes you feel much more comfortable and effective.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's kind of amazing how these small, everyday things, these linguistic cues, really shape how we interact.
Mm-hmm.
We've sort of peeled back the layer on how are you in American culture. And we found it's often less about a genuine question and more like a social handshake.
A quick acknowledgement.
Yeah. And that's so fundamentally different from how it might work where you, the listener, are from. So here's something maybe to think about as you go about your day. What other common phrases or greetings exist in your own culture? Are there any that have a kind of hidden, unstated social rule? Something a visitor might totally misunderstand.
That's a great question to ponder. Those little everyday things we take for granted often have deep cultural roots.
Definitely worth thinking about.
And definitely stay with us for future deep dives. We'll keep exploring these fascinating bits of language and culture. We might even dig into what does happen if you answer, how are you, honestly, in different American contexts.
Oh, interesting. Because it's not always the same rule everywhere.
Not always. It can change depending on if it's a friend or maybe a different setting. We'll also look at how small talk shifts and break down more key phrases, grammar, pronunciation, all to help you speak with even more confidence.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into something fascinating, those often unspoken, kind of hidden rules of everyday English conversation. You, our listener, pointed us towards some great material, specifically part 3 of an English learning breakdown. And our mission here really is to give you a bit of a shortcut. We want you feeling confident in those casual chats, small talk, by unpacking some surprising bits and really practical tips from this source.
Yeah, and this deep dive should be especially helpful if you're learning English around that B1, B2 level, or maybe you're practicing for IELTS listening. The idea is to help you sound more natural, more confident, and maybe avoid some of those common traps people fall into with these, seemingly simple exchanges.
Okay, so this core idea. Learning English is like learning the hidden rules of a culture. The source says it's not just grammar, but rhythm, timing. What are some of these rules it talks about? Let's unpack this a bit.
Well, what's really interesting is how it defines small talk. It calls it a friendly, quick chat about simple things, like, the classic examples talking about the weather.
Right.
But it's not just what you talk about, it's the rhythm. The source points out, for example, that American small talk often has this really fast rhythm.
Oh, interesting. Fast rhythm.
Yeah, and that can be a surprise, right? If you're not used to it. That speed itself kind of sets an expectation for keeping things brief.
And that ties right into being polite, doesn't it? The breakdown talks about politeness not just as like saying please and thank you, but as sort of a social signal in small talk. Respecting boundaries, respecting the situation, keeping it light.
Exactly. And understanding that politeness becomes, well, absolutely essential when the source brings up this idea of a therapy session.
Ah, yes.
It makes this really sharp point. A cashier or someone you just met, they don't want a therapy session.
Yeah.
They're not looking for, a deep dive into your feelings or problems right then and there.
Mm.
It's about a polite, brief exchange. And
Yeah.
that really hammers home the importance of context. Like
Yeah.
in a cafe, the context is casual. Your conversation should match that. And that's a really crucial distinction for you, the listener, to get. Not every "how are you" is an invitation to share your life story.
That makes total sense. So yeah, definitely no deep existential talks while buying coffee. Okay, so how do these hidden rules actually show up in the language? The material says they're kind of baked into everyday grammar and common phrases.
Precisely. The information breaks down some key grammar structures we use all the time, often without thinking, especially in small talk. First up, the present simple tense. We use this for facts, habits, general truths. The examples given are things like Americans say, "How are you?" every day, or it shows care in some cultures.
Okay.
So using the present simple kind of keeps things general, common ground. It helps avoid getting too personal or into something complex right now.
Right, keeps it from becoming that therapy session.
Exactly. Then you've got the present continuous tense. This is more for things happening right now or trends, things in progress. So if you say they are asking, "How are you?" all the time, or people are getting confused, that tense signals something current, maybe temporary or changing.
Okay, the distinction's helpful. And what about modal verbs? The analysis points to can and should being really useful, like tools for giving quick advice or options in these short exchanges. It gives examples like you can say, "Good, thanks," or "You should just smile and move on."
Spot on. Can gives you an option, a possibility. Should offers a suggestion, kind of guiding you based on these unwritten social rules.
Makes sense.
And that leads right into those super common starter questions. The material points out the difference between "How are you?" a bit more formal, where a good answer is something like "I'm good, thanks," and then "How's it going?" which is more informal. And for that, "not bad" is a totally normal, fine answer. The main thing here, the source emphasizes, is that these are polite starters, like a handshake in conversation. The expectation. Short, usually positive answers, keep it moving, keep it light.
Right. Understanding is one thing, but actually doing it smoothly takes practice. The material really stresses this. It even suggests the shadowing technique, which, if you haven't heard of it, is basically listening closely and then immediately trying to copy the speaker's pronunciation, their intonation, the rhythm, like an echo.
Yeah, it's a fantastic way to really internalize that natural flow. Gets your mouth and ears working together.
So to help with that, the breakdown gives us some specific phrases to practice. Let's run through them. And for you listening, try shadowing. Repeat after us. Ready? First one. "Hey, how are you?"
And a typical reply, "Good, thanks. And you?"
Another option. "Can't complain." Or just,
Are you?
"Fine."
Maybe. Pretty good.
Or
Not bad.
then the informal starter, "How's it going?"
And a possible reply, "All good." That's the idea. And the tip is, play the section again, repeat them, shadow until it feels natural. That repetition really builds the muscle memory you need.
Okay, so we've got the rules, practice. But the source also clearly lays out some common mistakes, things to avoid. So what are the big pitfalls here, according to this breakdown?
Right. It details three main ones that often trip people up. Mistake number one, giving a really long answer during small talk. So the wrong way is like, "Oh, I'm actually feeling kind of down because my cat's sick and work is stressful and I didn't sleep well."
Yikes.
Versus the right way, just a simple "good, thanks," or "fine, thanks," respecting that context we talked about.
Got it. Mistake one, too much information. What's next?
Mistake number two, basically not answering at all. This might look like just a blank stare or confused face when someone asks, "How are you?"
Uh-oh. Awkward.
Yeah. The right approach, even if you're caught off guard, is just a simple, polite response. "Doing well, thanks." Or "Fine. And you?" It just acknowledges the question and keeps the social wheels turning.
Okay, so answer something. Keep it brief. And the third, mistake.
Mistake number three, confusing casual chats with deep conversations. This really circles back to context again. At the coffee shop counter. Keep it short, keep it light. Talking with a close friend later. That's the time you could absolutely share more, go deeper.
Right.
So it raises that important question for you, the listener.
Mhm.
Are you matching the depth of your talk to the situation and your relationship with the person?
So we've journeyed through these hidden rules of English small talk, the rhythm, politeness, context, the grammar, the phrases, and hopefully getting a handle on these sort of subtle points can really boost your confidence and make your English sound more natural.
Absolutely. And please remember, learning English, especially these cultural nuances, these hidden rules, it really is a journey. Mistakes, they're totally normal, expected even. They're part of learning. So just keep listening, keep trying things out, like shadowing. You will get more comfortable.
Definitely. So as you think about navigating these hidden rules of English small talk, here's a final thought to consider. What other subtle cues, maybe things beyond just the words, might you be missing in other kinds of communication? And how could becoming more aware of those perhaps transform how you understand the world and people around you? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We look forward to exploring more fascinating topics with you next time.